Strength can conquer kingdoms, but desires can destroy a man from within. Samson was chosen by God, blessed with supernatural powers unlikely any others. Yet the greatest battle of his life will not be against armies or beasts, it will be against temptation. This is a tragic story of Samson and Delilah, a warning about lust, betrayal, and the price of losing control. Before Samson was ever born, God had already chosen him for a purpose. An angel appeared to his mother with a message from heaven. Israel was suffering under the rules of Philistines, and Samson will become the man chosen to deliver God's people. He was to live under a sacred vow, set apart from birth. His strength will not come from muscles alone, but from the Spirit of God. As Simon grew, he was dedicated to God under a sacred Nazarite vow. His hair would never be cut, and his life was meant to remain holy before the Lord. His vow was not merely traditional, it was a symbol of obedience, separation, and divine purpose. God's power rested upon Samson, and from a young age, people could already see that he was different from everyone else. One day, while traveling through the wilderness, Samson came face to face with a roaring lion. With no weapon in his hand, he fought the beast alone. Then the Spirit of God came upon him with great powers. Samson tore the lion apart with his bare hands, astonishing everyone who later heard the story. God's strength within him was greater than any earthly foes. Samson became a terror to the Philistines. Times after time, God gave him supernatural strength to defeat Israel's enemies. Entire armies feared the man chosen by God. But as Samson's victories increased, so did his pride. The stronger he became physically, the weaker he slowly became spiritually. Then Samson met Delilah. Her beauty captured his attention instantly, and desire slowly began to cloud his judgments. The man who once walked closely with God now allowed temptation to enter his heart. Samson believed he was strong enough to control his desires, but temptation often begins where confidence becomes pride. The Philistine rulers saw Samson's weakness and formed a secret plan. They approached Delilah with silver and promises of wealth, asking her to discover the source of Samson's supernatural strength. Delilah agreed. What began was attraction slowly became betrayal. Samson did not realize that the woman he trusted was now working against him in secret. Delilah began asking Samson about the secret behind his strength. At first, Samson treated it like a game, giving false answer and hiding the truth. But each question slowly pulled him deeper into danger. Desire had blinded his judgment, and he had no longer recognized the trap forming around him. After many attempts, Simon finally revealed the truth. He told Delilah that his strength was connected to the sacred vow, symbolized by his uncut hair. In that moment, Samson placed his trust in the wrong hands. Desire had overcome wisdom, and the secret that once protected him was now exposed to his enemies. That night, when Samson slept peacefully beside Delilah, betrayal entered the room. The woman he loved chose silver over loyalty. Samson rested without fear, unaware that his enemies were now closer than ever. In his weakest moment, the secret that once set him apart from the world was about to be taken away. When Samson awoke, he believed he was still as strong as before. But this time, the power of God has departed from him. His strength was gone. In a single night, lust, pride, and betrayal had destroyed the gift he once carried. Samson finally realized that he had lost far more than his hairs. The Philistines captured Samson without resistance. The mighty warrior who once terrified armies now stood powerless before his enemies. Pride had blinded him, temptation had weakened him, and betrayal had finished the fall. Samson's strength was never truly his own, and now he fully understood what he had lost. Samson was thrown into prison and forced into humiliation. The once mighty warrior now sat alone in darkness, chained and broken. Everything he trusted in himself had disappeared. But in silence and suffering, Samson began to remember the God he had neglected, and slowly his hair began to grow again. In the darkness of prison, Samson finally turned back to God. Stripped of pride and strength, he prayed with a humble heart for the first time in many years. The man who once trusted in himself now depended completely on the mercy of God. And though Samson could not yet see it, heaven had not abandoned him. The Philistines gathered together to celebrate. They believed their false god had defeated the man chosen by the Lord. Music filled the temple, laughter echoed through the halls, and Samson was brought before the crowd as a symbol of humiliation. But while he would celebrate his downfall, God was preparing one final moment. Samson was held into the center of the temple and placed between the massive pillars that held the structure together. The crowd mocked him, believing his story had ended in defeat. But deep within, Samson's faith had returned. For the first time in years, he no longer trusted his own strength. He trusted completely in God. Samson cried out to God one final time. He no longer prayed from pride or anger, but from surrender. In the middle of the temple, surrounded by enemies and mockery, Samson placed his trust completely in the Lord. And in that sacred moment, God answered the prayer of a broken man. With one final act of faith, Samson pushed against the pillars of the temple. The ground began to tremble. Cracks spread through the massive stone structure as fear filled the faces of Philistines. The same God Samson had once abandoned him filled him with strength once again. In his final moments, Samson fulfilled the purpose he was born for. Temple collapsed with tremendous force. The pillars shattered, the walls fell, and the celebration turned into chaos. In his final act, Samson destroyed the power of the Philistines and fulfilled the mission God had given him from birth. Though his life ended in tragedy, his final moments became one of the redemption, sacrifice, and restored faith. When the dust finally settled, since filled with ruins of the temple, Samson's journey had ended. The man who once fell because of lust and pride found redemption through surrender and faith. Though his story was tragic, it became a reminder that even after failure, God's mercy can still restore your purpose. Samson's story became a warning for generations to come. Strength without wisdom leads to destruction. Desire without discipline leads to downfall. Yet, even after failure, God's mercy still remains for those who return to Him. Samson lost everything through temptation, but in the end, he found redemption through faith. Samson's life became a reminder that no one is too far gone from God's mercy. Lust and pride brought destruction into his life, but repentance brought redemption in the end. Even after failure, God still heard his prayers. Samson's final moments provided that surrender to God is greater than human strength, desires, and powers. Samson's story reminds us that temptation can destroy even the strongest person, but God's mercy is still greater than our failures. Do not let pride, lust, or desire pull you away from the purpose. Return to God while there is still time. Subscribe for more powerful biblical stories for faith, redemption, and truth. Like this video and share it in the future.